Project Ogreish Chapter 1. File. Project Ogreish. Transcript timestamp. June 21, 2019. 9:15 a.m. Subject. Former Army Staff Sergeant Griffles Hastings. Demographics. Age. 39. Sex. Male. Race. Caucasian. Weight. 102.6 kilograms 225 pounds. Height. 185.42 centimeters 6'1". Bio. Current occupation. Unemployed. Address. Homeless. History. Iraq War veteran. Infantry. Purple Heart recipient. Medically discharged in 2014. Concomitant conditions. Alcoholism. Post-traumatic stress disorder. Early stage liver disease. Recording start. Agent Graham. I'm starting the recording now, Sergeant. I'll be blunt. We need to know what happened down there. Sergeant Hastings. Audible sigh. It was ducked. I don't know how else to say it. Things happened that shouldn't have happened. Unnatural shit. Agent Graham. Sergeant Hastings. It's just Griff. I ain't military anymore. Agent Graham. Okay Griff. You're safe now. Our people are preparing to incinerate the facility. But they're going in blind. We need everything you saw down there. No detail is too small. Agent Graham. Alright, you got any beer here? I haven't had a duck and drink in days. Agent Graham. Audible beep Dion. Please get Mr. Hastings a beer. Agent Wilson. Audible static. I'm on it. Agent Graham. Dion's probably got to run out to get one. We don't usually keep the fridge stocked here. Can you start telling us what happened down there while we wait? Sergeant Hastings. Audible sigh. Alright, it started a few days ago. I always hit up the local research center to see if they had any studies open. You usually get a couple bucks to get loaded up with meds and sit there for a few hours. If you get lucky, a few days with a couple hot meals. Agent Graham. And where is this research center? Sergeant Hastings. Corner of Luxem and 4th Street. That's the main one I hit up. There's a couple, but that's the one I was at. Anyway, they had a study available. Seemed too good to be true. Silence. I guess it was. Agent Graham. Do you recall any details of the study? Who was running it? The purpose? Anything? Sergeant Hastings. It was all pretty vague, which ain't normal for these studies. They usually have every detail printed down to how you should scoop your shit if they want a sample. All I remember was they promised 2 weeks of housing at an off-site location. Meals included. And $2,000 $2,000 for completing it. That's the duck and jackpot as far as these things go. I signed up. They asked me a couple questions, and had me in the back of a van within the hour. Agent Graham. Do you know where they took you? Sergeant Hastings. There weren't any windows. I was in there for at least 3 or 4 hours. I fell asleep for a bit, so that might be off. Agent Graham. What happened when you arrived, and please, every detail matters. Sergeant Hastings. We got there and the door swung open. A couple of eggheads in white lab coats were there to greet us. One man. One woman. The woman didn't talk. The man introduced himself as Dr. Johnson. Agent Graham. Likely a false name. Can you describe their appearance? Sergeant Hastings. Yeah, I figured as much. Johnson, or the man I guess, was average build. He was fairly young. Probably 5'9". Red hair. Looked flushed. Freckles on his face. Large black rimmed glasses. The woman was older. She had gray hair pulled up in bun. 5'6" or 5'7". Couldn't have been more than 120 pounds soaking wet. She wore glasses too. Small. Frameless. Square glasses. If I had to guess, she was his boss. Agent Graham. Anything else unusual? Sergeant Hastings. There were armed guards nearby, which was weird. I've never seen that before. They weren't military either, private security probably. Makes a lot more duckin' sense now, I guess. Agent Graham. What about the facility? Sergeant Hastings. It was a temp setup in the middle of nowhere. Looked like something from that Biodome movie. Except you couldn't see inside. They took me through a closed walkway. Told me it was decontaminating me. They opened a door, and there was a metal table inside with a couple of chairs. The redhead told me to sit and make myself comfortable. Said the rest of the group should be arriving soon. And then just left. Agent Graham. Describe the room please. Sergeant Hastings. Gray walls. Metal table in the middle. 3 doors. One from the way we just came. One to the left from there. And one straight ahead. There was a pitcher of water on the table and a few glasses. Silence. I probably sat there for a half hour by myself. I don't know. There wasn't a clock in there. When the door finally opened, it was the redhead dropping off another guy. Agent Graham. Anything unusual about this guy? Sergeant Hastings. He was duckin' loaded, that much I can say. Agent Graham. Loaded as in drunk. Sergeant Hastings. Oh yeah, pretty surprising. These eggheads don't usually take you if you show up drunk. Ruins the experiment, they say. He was probably homeless too, he looked the part at least. Old white guy. Heavy jacket. Worn black tennis shoes. Gray unkempt beard. Smelled like shit. He was probably in his 60s, but the streets can age a man fast. Wouldn't be surprised if he was my age. Agent Graham. He say anything to you? Sergeant Hastings, said his name was Bill and passed the duck out on the table immediately. The doctor just walked right out, probably waited another 10 minutes before the girl showed up. She was young too, duck and young. Agent Graham. Describe the female. Silence. Griff. Silence. Griff. I know this is difficult. Your story can save lives though. Sergeant Hastings. Subject struggling to verbalize inaudible. She had to be 20 at most. Close in age to my daughter, inaudible. Spanish girl I think. Jet black hair down to her shoulders. Thick sweater. Jeans. Rain boots. She looked a little disheveled but was cleaned up for the most part. You know she hadn't given up on appearances yet like most of us. Agent Graham. She was homeless too. Sergeant Hastings. Runaway. Saw a lot of kids like her come through in my time. They run from broken homes thinking they'll make it in the big city on their own. Reality ducks them raw though. Most of them go crawling back home after a few days. It was a standard story. Stepdaddy was an abusive piece of shit. Mom was a hopeless romantic. Running was better than catching a right hook every ducking day honestly. Catching a hook wasn't too bad compared to some of the stories I heard from these kids. Agent Graham. So, she spoke to you. Sergeant Hastings. Audible laughter. She wouldn't shut the duck up. I didn't mind though. It was nice talking to someone who hadn't given up on life yet. Said her name was Larissa. Girl was an optimist. All things considered. She told me her big plans. She was scrounging up cash when she could. Enough to get her on her feet. Wanted to go to Hawaii. And this study was her ticket. Warm beaches. Endless restaurants to work in. Not like our shithole. The winter hardens you quick here. Silence. She reminded me so much of my daughter. Agent Graham. Is your daughter alive? Sergeant Hastings. Yeah, she's with her mother. I was a shit father. Haven't seen her in 3 years. Silence. That's all I'm saying on that. Agent Graham. Okay. Noted. Sergeant Hastings. The last guy was brought in about 15 minutes after Larissa. Late 20s 20s. Clearly a tweaker. Agent Graham. Tweaker. Sergeant Hastings. Meth addict. Mother ducker was missing teeth. Couldn't sit still. Scratches up and down his body. Malnourished as hell. Little skinhead looking guy. Just kept asking the doctor when he gets paid. His name was Mark. Agent Graham. Did they answer him? Sergeant Hastings. Yeah. Said as soon as the experiment is over. Agent Graham. So, they gathered a handful of expendable subjects who wouldn't be missed. Sergeant Hastings. Yep. Seems that way. Agent Graham. Everyone is gathered now. What happens next? Sergeant Hastings. The redhead Dr. Johnson comes back with a clipboard and starts describing the experiment. Says we're gonna to move from room to room over the next 2 weeks and simply be observed. Tells us to be ourselves and act as if no one is watching. Silence. It seemed duckin' weird, but 2 weeks of free food and $2,200 was worth it in my eyes. Guy pulled a key out of his pocket. Opened the door to the left and told us to move through. Tweaker Mark went first, followed by Larissa. Then me. Then the egghead Dr. Johnson prodded Bill to wake up. After Bill stumbled in, the door was closed and we were alone. We could hear it locked behind us. Agent Graham. Describe the room please. Sergeant Hastings. Empty room. Nothing in it, but a hatch on the floor. Agent Graham. What happened next? Sergeant Hastings. The hatch opened up. We all just kind of gathered around and looked down. There was a long ladder leading down. Couldn't see anything past a couple feet. It was pitch black. I remember Larissa asking if we should go down. Mark started getting anxious. Said he was scared of the dark. Bill. Didn't do much but keep looking down. I guess he was trying not to hurl. I told everybody to stay calm. My mantra in the military was to never move without intel unless you absolutely had to. Silence. Didn't take long until we had to. Silence. Agent Graham. Please. Continue. Sergeant Hastings. Audible sigh. The ceiling shifted and started lowering in on us. Larissa and the tweaker Mark panicked. The tweaker Mark started kicking the door we came through. Shit was reinforced steel though. Ain't getting through that without a battering ram. Bill barely reacted. I guess I just took control. Yelled at them all to get their asses into gear. Bill started climbing down but was moving so ducking slow. Tweaker kid Mark freaked out and pushed past him to get on the ladder. Bill fell down the hatch, heard him hit the ground and could hear him screaming in pain. I remember Larissa starting to cry. I told her she needed to pull it together and get on the ladder. To the kid's Larissa credit, she composed herself and started climbing down. The ceiling was about scraping my head at this point. I hopped on the ladder and made my way down behind them all. The light was cut off when the ceiling slammed over the hatch. We were climbing down a pitch black hole into God knows what. Silence. All I could hear was the sound of us climbing and Bill screaming in agony. Agent Graham. Christ. Sergeant Hastings. I wish I could tell you that was the worst of it. Inaudible I. Agent Graham. Why don't we take a break? Let's get you that beer and come back to this in 20. Agent Graham. How's the beer? Sergeant Hastings. Drinking sounds to be honest, I'm not used to the craft shit. Usually just buy whatever's cheapest. I gotta say, I don't hate it. Agent Graham. Dion thinks he's a beer connoisseur. I think most of his picks taste like garbage. I'm a Coors man myself. Sergeant Hastings, I'd drink piss if you told me it would get me drunk right now. Agent Graham. Understandable. I got word my team has secured a perimeter around the facility. They're breaching the upper levels and awaiting my report to enter the lower levels. I'm hoping we can continue. They need whatever information they can get. Sergeant Hastings. Drinking sounds. Yeah, where were we? Agent Graham. You were all heading down the ladder. Sergeant Hastings. That's right. We got to the bottom. Couldn't see shit. It was pitch black. Bill was screaming up a storm. I felt around for him. He was screaming about his leg. I couldn't see him, but I felt him. His duck and tibia snapped and came through the skin. Saw more than my fair share of these injuries in Iraq. He was ducked, but I wasn't gonna just leave him to die. The tweaker Mark was in full panic mode. He was feeling around for a door. Having a nervous breakdown, basically the worst type of person to have in a stressful situation. Drinking sounds. The girl Larissa was quiet. I couldn't see what she was doing, but I guess she was too petrified to move. I tore off a piece of my shirt. Look into at least wrap Bill's leg and control the bleeding. I was about to get to work when the lights came on. Shit blinded us. It was like warehouse lights all coming on at once. I remember the girl screaming when she could see Bill's injury. Audible sigh. It was worse than I thought. His leg was practically shattered. Bone was sticking through. Blood was pouring out. It would have been grim for a healthy kid. Bill was anything but healthy. Imitating Bill, my duck and leg. Jesus, my duck and leg. That's all he kept screaming. I'm not a medic, but I had some basic training. Best I could do was try and plug the hole and cover it up. The tweaker Mark was screaming for help. The girl Larissa was screaming about his injury. This was not my idea of a good team. I did the best I could. Bill shrieked through the entire operation. I could tell he was going into shock. Gulping sounds, bottles clanging, beer cap removed, gulping sounds. Sorry, I know I have a problem. Feel like this is the only shit worth living for these days. Agent Graham. You don't have to apologize. Sergeant Hastings. Gonna need a strong buzz to finish this story. Drinking sounds. I remember shouting to the tweaker Mark to get his shit together and come help. The freak scampered over to me. I guess he can listen when someone orders him around. As luck would have, the kid had some heroin on him. Apparently, he had a big ass stash of drugs on him to keep him occupied during what he thought was gonna be a 2-week vacation. I yanked it from him, prepped it, and gave Bill a dose. The whole Mark was upset. Sarcastic tone. Addicts are known for being good sharers. Hard to measure that shit, but Bill calmed down real quick once it hit his system. I was worried I was gonna overdose him, but it wouldn't have made much difference. Unless he got to a hospital fast. He was done for. Figured if he was gonna go, at least let the guy die feeling good. Larissa walked further into the lit up room. I hadn't taken any time to survey the scene, but once I got Bill stable and calm, I got to look around. It was a much bigger room. Pretty plain, but in the middle was 4 metallic looking suits hanging on a rack, next to another metal table with some knives and firearms. The walls of the room were scorched, like the whole place had been on fire before. Drinking sounds. There was a note and a timer counting down on the table. Agent Graham. What'd it say? Sergeant Hastings T. Hat. We had 30 minutes to get suited up and armed before the room was cleansed. Thanks to the tweakers Mark stuck up. We had 8 minutes. That's when Larissa noticed the goddamn gas tanks and nozzles on the wall. The shit was rigged to superheat the duckin' room and burn anything left alive. Gulping sounds. I told everyone to throw a suit on immediately. I'd never been in hazmat suit before, but this felt a lot sturdier than the ones you see in the movies. It felt like the shit was made of Kevlar. The helmets all had a light and small camera mounted to the side. I guess they were recording us. Agent Graham. What about Bill? Sergeant Hastings. I got myself suited up pretty quick. We used to have gas drills back in the army. Had to learn how to get dressed and get a gas mask on in 15 seconds. It was kind of like that. I had about 4 minutes left to help the others and drag Bill's big ass over. He was high as a kite by now, and pretty much useless, just mumbling away. I did try to get him in a suit, but time was ticking down. I didn't know what we needed weapons for, but I certainly wasn't going in naked. There were 4 M9s, a couple clips, and some combat knives. I was nervous to give Larissa and the tweaker Mark a firearm, but what duckin' choice did I have? All I could do was leave the safety on and give them a 30-second tutorial. Drinking sounds. Once 2 minutes was left on the clock, a door opposite of us opened up. The flamethrowers on the wall must have started powering up or something. I remember yelling at the girl Larissa and the tweaker Mark to get the duck over and help me drag Bill out the door. She came to help, but the duckin' coward Mark ran through the door. We barely made it through when the flames began dousing the room. I got a nice blast of heat as I pulled the door shut. Agent Graham. I'm just theorizing here, but I'm guessing the room you were in was a staging room to ensure no organic specimens could make it through to the surface. Sergeant Hastings. Seemed pretty goddamn effective to me. Silence. I'm sorry. Lost my train of thought. Drinking sounds. The new room we were in was pitch black again. The floor wasn't solid anymore. It was springy and spongy. There was a disgusting squish to every step we took. I was fumbling around trying to find a wall, when some static cut in. They must have placed a radio in our helmets. The voice of a woman came through. Her tone was clinical. She had a British accent, imitating the voice subjects 123, 124, 125 and 127. I am offering a reward for your services. Make it to the heart of the facility, collect the sample I need, and get back to the surface. Survivors will never spend another day in poverty. Larissa and the tweaker Mark shouted, "Duck you back into the mic," but I don't think the woman could hear or she didn't care to respond. She must have sent me a private transmission afterwards, imitating the voice subject 125. Since you seem to be the only competent one of this bunch, I implore you to proceed without the others. Their demise will make for excellent data, and they will only hinder your progress. Agent Graham. Did you? Sergeant Hastings. Did I what? Agent Graham. Leave them. Sergeant Hastings. No. I don't leave people behind. Agent Graham. I commend you. Not everyone would do the same. Sergeant Hastings. Yeah, she wasn't wrong though. I wanted to keep everyone alive and audible. They weren't strong enough. Agent Graham. You and I both know you can't save everyone. Silence. I was special forces myself. You know. Lost more friends than I care to admit. Sergeant Hastings. It is what it is, I guess. I spend a lot of time wondering if it would be better to die with them. Living feels a lot harder. Drinking sounds. Anyway, the tweaker Mark was still shouting into his mic, creating a scene. While he was doing that, I remembered there was a flashlight on my helmet. I fumbled around for it and found the button to activate the light. It was a powerful little light, lit up everything in front of me. I told the others to do the same. Silence. That's when I got a good look at the floor. Drinking sounds. It was duck and flesh, blood, muscle, and organs, stretched out all over the floor and the walls. The shit was pulsating, oozing blood and pus out of every orifice. That's when I saw the first of many horrors. Larissa must have saw it at the same time. She screamed louder than I had ever heard another human scream. We saw the outline of a man melded into the wall. It looked like skin had been stretched over him and melted hold him up. The ducker was still breathing. I don't know how, 'cause there wasn't any hole to breathe through, but we could see his chest, well, what used to be his chest, moving up and down. His face was gone. It just looked like a featureless piece of skin stretched over a skull. You couldn't see his eyes or any holes where his nose used to be. His duckin' mouth was covered with skin, but we could see it was still moving, like he was trying to tell us something. The girl Larissa was starting to panic again, and I can't blame her. This shit was heavy for me, and I watched more than a few guys get blown apart by IEDs, improvised explosive devices, in my time. That's when the tweaker Mark shouted, "Oh duck," at the top of his lungs. Larissa and turned to see what the commotion was. Gulping sounds. Silence. Agent Graham. Take a minute if you need it. Sergeant Hastings. Audible sigh. Whatever the duck we were stand-in on was absorbing Bill. Mercifully, the guy was too duckin' high to notice, but the fleshy tendrils, I guess, were forcing their way into his duckin' leg wound. It looked like his body was fused with the floor. Larissa and Mark tried to pull him up, but the shit wouldn't let go. They grabbed their knives and tried cutting him free, but anytime they pulled a part of him up or got him loose, he would scream in pain and fight to get back into the fleshy mess. It started pumping him full of something that was melting him from within. Drinking sounds. I should have left him to burn. It would have been a better death. I don't know how long it took, but all that was left was a sack of flesh and bone that had Bill's outline imprinted in the floor. Silence. Agent Graham. You couldn't have known. Sergeant Hastings. Yeah, doesn't mean it won't haunt me. Drinking sounds. Agent Graham. So, from what little data we've obtained so far, the facility was built around whatever this organism is to study it. Sergeant Hastings. Who the duck was studying it? Agent Graham. That's what we aim to find out. What we do know from the data we pulled is the organic material is nothing like what's been observed before. The implications of this being utilized as a weapon is probably not lost on you. You're the only person to come into this close of contact and live to tell the story. I can't overstate your importance to us. Sergeant Hastings. Just promise me you'll destroy it. Silence. Sergeant Hastings. Promise me. Silence. Agent Graham. You have my word. Static. Agent Graham. Agent Graham. Yes. Static. We have some more information you need to see. Agent Graham. Okay. Griff. Hang tight. We'll pick this up in a couple of minutes. Agent Graham. My men in the field tell me you claim to be our mystery informant. They said you willingly turned yourself in. Can you confirm? Dr. Meadows. That's right. Agent Graham. Verify your code name and the control number provided to you. Dr. Meadows. I'm Jaybird. 76C-03576C035. Agent Graham. You'll have to forgive me if I don't fully trust you yet. The nature of our communication was quite limited. Dr. Meadows. I didn't have a choice. She was always watching us. You know how hard it was to get any information out of there undetected. It was me. Please. You have to stop her. She's lost her mind. You have to protect me. Agent Graham. Slow down. Start talking. We'll discuss protection after you tell us what you know. Who is she? Dr. Meadows. Dr. Rachel Balmer. She's the one in charge of the facility you raided. She's the one who ran the experiments. Agent Graham. Start from the beginning. How did you get involved with Dr. Balmer? Dr. Meadows. I was recruited out of Stanford. She approached me one evening after work. I'd been working as a research assistant making pennies, eating ramen every night. She offered to take me to dinner. It was a restaurant I could only dream of going to. Then she offered a dream job to be her assistant. Said pay started at $250,000 a year. Agent Graham. Come again. $250,000. Dr. Meadows. I was barely making $45,000 working 80-hour weeks. I mean, how could I say no to that offer? God, if I would have known what the job would be, I would have said no right on the spot. Agent Graham. Did she give you any details? Did she say why she was offering you this job? Dr. Meadows. She told me she admired my thesis on parasitic fungi. And only said that her work was going to change the world. Oh God, why didn't I refuse? Agent Graham. I don't have time for you to feel sorry for yourself. I need everything you know on the facility and on Dr. Balmer. We're short on time. Where is she? Dr. Meadows. I told you to wait for my signal. You think someone is calculating, as her doesn't have a dozen exit strategies. We had to catch her off guard. Agent Graham. Loud banging noise. There were lives on the line. Silence. We don't just sit on our hands while innocents are slaughtered. Dr. Meadows. Yeah, well, I didn't know we were shipping 4 new subjects in until they showed up. The whole process was a mess. We hardly had any time to prepare. And she rarely sent more than 2 in at a time. So why all of a sudden we had to send 4 was unknown to me. She bumped up her timeline on this batch, didn't tell anyone why, rushed to grab the first 4 to sign up for the study. I would have never consented to sending those 4 in. They were completely unqualified for a specimen retrieval. Even more so than the usual low life she sends in. Audible sigh. Look, a lot more than some homeless bums are going to die if you don't stop her. Silence. Silence. Agent Graham. You aren't making a strong case for yourself here. I recommend you start telling me something I can use. Or you can kiss any protection goodbye. And by the looks of the fear in your eyes, jail time is the least of your worries. Dr. Meadows. PP please. I'll tell you whatever. Just protect me from her. Agent Graham. Keep talking. Tell me about your work. Dr. Meadows. I mostly processed samples and met with subjects as they came in. Agent Graham. People. They were people, not subjects. Dr. Meadows. Yeah, I never got the full picture. Dr. Balmer was incredibly secretive. There were a handful of assistants, all with a piece of the puzzle. She never let one assistant know everything. We were forbidden from discussing work with one another. She was always watching. If not her, one of her goons were there. If they weren't there, she always had cameras on us. Anyone who broke the rules would be removed. They wouldn't tell us anything at first. I assumed they were just fired, but after I stumbled across a video I wasn't meant to see. Agent Graham. Video. Dr. Meadows. There were 2 types of experiments she ran. Objective-based, where the subjects had to enter the facility and complete a task, usually collect a sample. And inaudible, oh God, sobbing noises. Agent Graham. Time is of the essence here. Dr. Meadows. And feeding. She fed live subjects to the organism. Documented their final moments, I guess, to observe how it absorbed its victims. How the victims reacted. I have found a video of one of my colleagues being forced into the lower levels. I thought she had simply been fired months ago. Apparently, Dr. Balmer sent her to feed the specimen as a punishment. No protection. No weapons. All she had was a hidden camera mounted on her lab coat. Sobbing noises. She barely made it 5 minutes before it absorbed her. Inaudible sobbing noises. I'm so sorry I was involved in this. Agent Graham. So, you were essentially prisoners. Dr. Meadows. Yes. There was no leaving. There was no escape. You did what she said. Or you disappeared. After that, I sent an encrypted message out to an old friend of mine. Thank God they were wise enough to get it into your hands. Agent Graham. Tell me more about the creature. Dr. Meadows. It's unlike anything I've ever seen. She brought in biologists and chemists from all different specialties: infectious disease, parasitology, toxicology, and none of us were able to make heads or tails of what this thing is. It's completely malleable, able to grow and retract appendages as needed. It's able to break down specific tissue and reconstitute it elsewhere. I only ever observed it interacting with live organisms on its exterior. But what I saw was incredible, horrific, but incredible. Agent Graham. Were these people too? Dr. Meadows. When I first started, she only had me sending the occasional monkey or dog in. It wasn't pleasant. But I thought the research was important. She claimed the specimen's ability to regenerate could change the face of medicine, hell, maybe even human evolution. Agent Graham. How big is it? Dr. Meadows. I don't know. I never saw anything past the exterior. As far as I know, no one has ever made it in deeper and lived. Anyone who emerged completing their objective was debriefed by Dr. Balmer. The debriefings and recordings were immediately classified and secured on her personal desktop. Silence. I never saw anyone leave. I have to assume she disposed of them once they served their purpose. Sobbing noises. 126 such people murdered by this ducking psychopath. Agent Graham. 125 we pulled one of your test subjects out of the facility alive. Dr. Meadows impossible. Agent Graham. We're debriefing him as we speak. Speaking of that, our survivor said he was with subjects 123 124 124, and 127. What happened to 126? Dr. Meadows. I'm not sure. I just went with the numbers she assigned. Agent Graham. Okay, I need to know anything else about this creature. Weaknesses. Something we can exploit. This thing can't be left unchecked. Dr. Meadows. From what I've witnessed and read, it's intelligent sentient. It can adapt to external stimuli, and it's even capable of defending itself. It can reshape organic material and interact with inorganic materials to meet its needs. It's capable of using tools, even basic weapons. It can exert control over anyone who has extended physical contact with it. It wasn't uncommon for a live organism to fight to stay in once the absorption began. Agent Graham. They wanted to be absorbed. Dr. Meadows. There are parasites capable of overriding an organism's survival instincts. The victim's behaviors seem to mimic this phenomenon. This much control, this fast, on complex organisms like humans is unheard of. Though, Agent Graham, can we kill it? I mean, it clearly needs sustenance. Can we starve it out? Dr. Meadows. No, it's capable of going into a hibernation of sorts. It can prioritize energy use and pull back function from exterior areas to keep energy reserved for its vitals near the heart of the facility, kind of like how a cold-blooded body does in extreme cold, but on a large scale. I don't know how long it can survive, but Dr. Balmer claims it could live for decades in between feedings. Before we sent the last batch of subjects in, we had starved it out for 2 weeks. Dr. Balmer wanted her sample, so she wanted to send the subjects in while the creature was in a hibernation period. We were supposed to wait a month, but she pushed the date up. 2 weeks was probably enough time to place the creature into a stasis. But the first idiot getting himself absorbed likely pulled it out of its hibernation state. Silence. I'm honestly amazed someone was able to survive it. Agent Graham. There's got to be some vulnerability we can exploit. Dr. Meadows. Maybe Dr. Balmer was adamant that the lights on the suits not be pained. Grunts. Agent Graham. You okay? Dr. Meadows. My stomach it vomiting noises. Oh god, vomiting noises. Rachel, you ducking bit vomiting noises. Duck, help me. Gurgling noises. Agent Graham. SS. Shit. We need backup. Loud crash. Gunshots. Inhuman screaming. Gunshots. Agent Graham. Back up now. Gunshots. Loud crash. Gunshots. Agent Graham. Dion. Mark. Inhuman screaming. Loud crash. Gunshots. 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 Silence. Sergeant Hastings. What's the duckin' meaning of this? Why am I chained to the table? Why are you covered in dried blood? Agent Graham. Audible sigh. The extra security and restraints are for our own protection. Sergeant Hastings. I'm not gonna duck and hurt you. Get this shit off me. Silence. Agent Graham. We picked up 11 people from the facility. 10 of them were housing some kind of infection parasite we don't know yet. It tore the host bodies to shreds from within and mutated them into monstrosities. 9 of them mutated en route here. One of them mutated in front of me. I've lost 7 men trying to put these things down. I watched one of my own men get his head ripped off. Silence. I just got off the phone with their families. Silence. Sergeant Hastings. Shit, I've made those calls before. I'm sorry it never got easier. Agent Graham. Yeah. Sergeant Hastings. You think I'm infected? Agent Graham. You're the only one who hasn't mutated yet. I have to assume. Sergeant Hastings. I get it, just put me down quick if I turn. Agent Graham. That's what the extra security is for. Silence. Griff, the doctor in charge of that facility, wiped most of the useful files before she fled. I have to assume she infected her staff before levying somehow. As dangerous as the creature is, she is the larger threat. Before our informant turned, he said a lot more people are going to die if we don't stop her. You're our best lead. Did you have any interaction with Dr. Balmer beyond what you've told us? Sergeant Hastings. I'm guessing she was the British woman in my ear. Agent Graham. Our intel tells us she's a London native. So it tracks. Sergeant Hastings. Yeah, we talked through the radio a bit. I don't know how useful. Agent Graham. Anything you got? Keep going with the story. Sergeant Hastings. Okay, Bill had just been melted into the floor. The tweaker Mark was losing his mind. The girl Larissa was sobbing by the door we walked through. I knew leaving them there was a death sentence, so I did my best to comfort them. Told them the only way out was forward. Silence. I used to tell my troops that when we would be in a tough spot, I told them to get up, keep their weapons drawn, safety on, and to not fire unless I said so. I remember thinking we didn't have much ammo between the three of us, but the woman Dr. Balmer chimed in after I got those two settled. Agent Graham. What were her exact words? Sergeant Hastings. Imitating voice since you've awakened it. You are going to need more aid to complete your objective. I have drop chutes scattered throughout. There are tools within that will help you bypass the specimen's defenses. Agent Graham. Drop chutes. Sergeant Hastings. Like mail tubes or something. I guess she could drop in supplies through a chute system from above. She said the first chute wasn't far. They were marked with a blinking red light, but it was easy to miss. The creature's skin sacks were stretched over everything, so you had to look for sections of it that were blinking red underneath. Anyway, we started moving further into the facility. The ducking sound of its skin squishing under my feet is something I'll never get out of my head. Occasionally, we'd step on something gooey and pop it. It was enough to make me want to hurl, and I got a strong stomach. I remember the tweaker Mark started to mumble this as ducked over and over again. He was getting louder and louder. I had to snap at him to shut the duck up. That's when we heard a growling sound from the darkness. We'd caught its attention with the noise. We were at the beginning of a long hallway, so our lights only helped us see so far down. All the walls were shiny, dripping blood. Slime, whatever the duck else this creature was pumping through it. I heard the growling again and took the lead. I moved down slowly, kept my M9 aimed, and just kept my eyes up, looking for any movement. The growling was getting louder as we moved down the hallway. The girl Larissa and the tweaker Mark were several steps behind me. They were scared to be too close in case it got me. That's when I saw it at first. I thought it was a sack of flesh that was moving, but the closer it got to me, I realized it was a dog, or what used to be a dog. Its head was snapped to the left, slobbering and growling. It looked like a human arm was pushing through its neck hole, but there was something sharp where the hand should have been. It was wildly swinging the appendage at me. It was like it couldn't see me. I opened fire and aimed for the head. I was surprised when it yelped. I guess it could feel pain. I popped a few shots in the head, and it shut it up, but that didn't stop it. Figured I needed to stop wasting ammo and pulled my knife out. I ran up and caught the appendage that was swinging at me, took my knife and cut right ducking through it. Blood shot out all over the place. It was still ducking, moving though. That's when I saw the weak points. These things had near see-through skin stretched over, and you could see the mess of organs inside. I don't know much about anatomy, but I know what a heart looks like. I took my knife and jammed it through the thing's heart. It convulsed immediately and collapsed in front of me. The floor started melting the body back into it right away. Agent Graham. Was that the only threat? Sergeant Hastings. No. Silence. Agent Graham. What else was there? Sergeant Hastings. More of them. They all started lumbering down the hallway. More dog creatures. Each one of them had their own unique ducked up look. I remember one dog head looked like it was growing out the end of a human leg, vine dragged behind the body. Some of them had 2 or 3 heads plastered all over the fleshy sacks. One of them had no head and was just a mess of appendages wailing around. There didn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to how these things were put together. The tweaker Mark panicked and stared wildly, firing down the hallway. He was screaming, drawing attention. I was lucky enough to be off to the side. The girl Larissa caught a bullet to her back. She fell over in pain. The tweaker blew through his entire clip in a few seconds, and dropped his magazine before he could reload. The creatures were focused on his direction now. I grabbed the girl Larissa and pulled her towards me, whispered to stay quiet, and held us both up against the wall. The creatures shuffled right past us. They were uncomfortably close to us, even brushing up against my suit at one point. To girls Larissa's credit, she stayed quiet. I don't know for sure, but I think the creatures hunt by sound, so they were all intent on getting after the tweaker Mark. Once they had passed us, I told the girl Larissa to stay quiet and stand still. Agent Graham. What happened to Mark? Sergeant Hastings. I bailed his ass out again. Agent Graham. How? Sergeant Hastings. Once they weren't focused on me, it was easy to come up behind them and jam my knife into their hearts. With the tweaker Mark keeping them distracted, it was easy. After the threats were neutralized, I walked up to the kid Mark, ripped his gun out of his hand, and told him I'd leave him if he put us in danger like that again. Silence. I should have ducked and left him. Silence. I ran back to the girl Larissa. I must have been right about our suits. Had to be made of a Kevlar material. She was okay. Had the wind knocked out of her, but she was in one piece. I got her to her feet, made sure she was fine. She was shaken up, but still breathing. I told them what I discovered about the creatures and their hearts. We got to the end of the hallway without any more distractions. That's where we found our first supply drop. It was behind a layer of thick skin and a rib cage. Since it was so dark, we didn't have too much trouble finding the blinking light. I grabbed my knife and started cutting away the flesh. I had to break each rib to get through. I think the girl Larissa threw up in her suit a little. Agent Graham. And what did Dr. Balmer leave you? Sergeant Hastings. Some ammo clips and a single flashlight to fasten to my M9. Agent Graham. Flashlight. Sergeant Hastings. Yeah. She chimed in through the radio. Said the light should be an effective corrosive agent against the creature's defenses. She said it was gonna get a lot more dangerous the closer we got to the heart. Agent Graham. What kind of light? Sergeant Hastings. I don't know. All I know is that I turned it on and shined it on the wall. Shit started burning through the skin right away. Agent Graham. Audible beep. Have any of our survivors from the transports returned? Yet. Agent Wilson. Audible static. Just Agent Kelly, sir. The rest of the survivors were evased to secure medical facilities. She's the only survivor who did not have direct contact with a hostile. Agent Graham. Get her prepped for a debriefing ASAP. Agent Wilson. Audible static. Yes, sir. Agent Graham. Griff. We're going to finish this soon. I think I know the creature's vulnerability. I need Agent Kelly to confirm my suspicions. Agent Graham. I'm sorry about your squad. Agent Kelly. Audible sigh. We all knew the risks when we signed on to this job. Agent Graham. Doesn't make this any easier. Let's start from the beginning. I've only briefly reviewed the preliminary reports. Tell me everything you saw. Agent Kelly. Okay, my team arrived at the rally point with Alpha Team. We were able to watch the events from Alpha Team's helmet cam. Alpha breached the facility around 0600-0600 hours. They met minimal resistance. 2 of the private security opened fire and were put down immediately. The rest threw down their arms quickly. The scientists surrendered immediately. Once the upper levels were secured, the team moved into the depths of the facility and made contact with Subject 125-125 as the scientists had labeled him. He had apparently just emerged from the bioorganism moments prior to Alpha's breach. A single facility security personnel was preparing to execute the subject, but our team intervened. Subject 125-125 was immediately evased to a secure facility for interrogation. Silence. I have to ask, was he infected too? Agent Graham. We don't believe so. He's shown no symptoms and has stated his hazmat suit was never breached. He's still under observation, but our hope is he's in the clear. Agent Kelly. Good. Silence. We Bravo team entered the facility once Alpha provided the all clear. Surviving facility personnel were gathered and identified. Just about all of them were extremely cooperative. Agent Graham. And Dr. Ballmer. Agent Kelly. Nowhere to be found. Subject 125-125 stated he had just spoken with her within the past 10 or 15 minutes prior to our arrival. But she was gone when we searched the facility. Upon further exploration, we found a network of tunnels. It's likely she escaped through one of those with a small security team. It was deemed too dangerous to blindly pursue her. Audible sigh. Her underlings made it quite clear that she will do whatever it takes to survive. Silence. And there's more bad news. Agent Graham. Yeah, Agent Kelly. We believe she escaped with a live sample of the organism, extracted by Subject 125-125. Agent Graham. I've been made aware. I've shifted priority to locating Dr. Ballmer at any cost. Agent Kelly. I'm sorry we didn't go after her. Agent Graham. You followed procedure. It was too dangerous to pursue blind. What happened next? Agent Kelly. One of the scientists identified himself as our mole. He provided his code name and control number. He was swiftly evacuated behind Subject 125-125 for interrogation. I have to imagine he was infected. Agent Graham. He was, but we did get some useful intel out of him before he transformed. Agent Kelly. Some good news at least. Inaudible. We prepped the rest of the facility staff for transport. Since our 2 choppers were sent out and needed a refuel, we were forced to use land vehicles to transport the rest of the prisoners. 2 large vehicles housed the 1009 survivors from the facility. Both transports were bookended by 2 escort vehicles. I was in the rear escort with Agent Vasquez. Agent Graham. Roughly what time was this? Agent Kelly. It was a little after 0800-080 hours by this time. The first few hours were uneventful. About 2 hours into the trip, we noticed one of the transports veering off the road. They swerved and crashed into a tree off into the woods. Me and Agent Vasquez pulled over and had our firearms ready. One of our agents from the prison transport burst from the driver's side screaming about monsters. Audible sigh. That's when we saw them. The prisoners had mutated into grotesque monstrosities. It was like tentacles of some kind had burst through their bodies. One reached out and wrapped a tentacle around the driver's leg, started pulling him back towards the vehicle. Vasquez and I opened fire. Bullets seemed to have some kind of effect. The creature let go and made a noise that indicated pain, but it quickly recovered and grabbed the agent again when we reloaded. Silence. We tried to save him, we really did. Agent Graham. I know. Agent Kelly. The creatures tore him to pieces. I don't think I'll ever get his last screams out of my head. There were no survivors from that transport. Once they finished, they turned their attention towards us. We opened fire again, but that only appeared to delay them. They started slithering towards us. Vasquez tried standing his ground. I had to grab him and move him back. We retreated out of the dense woods onto the main road. I was thinking we needed to get back in our vehicle and flee. But that's when Vasquez noticed the smoke. Agent Graham. What do you mean smoke? Agent Kelly. Well, when the creature moved into the open sun and their skin started smoking, charring, I guess. I told Vasquez to keep them focused on him, while I ran to our vehicle and laid on the horn. They all slithered right into the sunlight, no regards for their own safety. Agent Graham. Did it kill them instantly? Agent Kelly. No, they still pursued us. One managed to grab Vasquez's leg and pull him to the ground. I threw a flashbang into the grouping, and it managed to stun them. I used that time to pull Vasquez away. I don't recall how long it took before the creatures finally collapsed and stopped moving, but they all eventually collapsed onto the asphalt. Agent Graham. And the other transport? Agent Kelly. The driver of that one stopped on the main road and exited the vehicle with his passenger. The two agents in the back of the transport were Kia. Vasquez and I joined the surviving agents and used what we had just learned to lure the creatures out into the sunlight. Silence. We lost 6 of our own guys. The survivors drove back together in one vehicle. It was a quiet ride. Agent Graham. I must commend you, Agent Kelly. Your courage in the face of an absolute nightmare exemplifies what we're all about. We're going to place you under additional observation for a few days. Afterwards, I'm requiring you to take a week off. Agent Kelly. I want to get back in the field. Agent Graham. These are orders directly from the top. Agent Kelly. Audible sigh before I forget. We did find something you may be interested in. Agent Graham. Agent Kelly. Balmer had some private journals stashed away in her office. I'm guessing she had her security wipe the files on the computers, but they missed these, probably didn't have enough time for a thorough cleanse. I didn't personally have the time to look these over. Vasquez said it was her personal thoughts, dating back decades. I'm hoping there is something of use in there. Maybe some clues to where she's going. Agent Graham. And where are they? Agent Kelly. Vasquez had them in the back of our transport. In all the chaos, we forgot them when we switched vehicles. Agent Graham. Good then. Delta has already retrieved the vehicles, cleaned up the scene, and is en route as we speak. We'll be certain to analyze these journals. Agent Kelly. Just promise me you'll find the biatch Dr. Balmer. Make her pay for what she did to us. Agent Graham. Now that we know how to take this creature out, finding Balmer is our #1 priority. Agent Kelly. What's the plan for the bioorganism? Agent Graham. Charlie's squad is still at the facility, awaiting further orders. We're already working on obtaining medical-grade UV lights for them. Agent Kelly. Let me go back, I want to finish what we started. Silence. Come on. When the duck has the captain ever played by the rules? I've lost too many friends today. I need to see this through. Let me do this. Agent Graham. Damn it. Audible sigh. All right. I'm prepping a transport. I'm waiting for our survivor to receive the all clear from medical, and I need to finish debriefing him. You can join him and suit up with Charlie's squad. Agent Kelly. Why wait for him? Agent Graham. He's the only living soul who's been into the belly of the beast. Charlie's squad is going to need a guide.